Hi everyone, my name is Olivia, and I recently had a secret admirer. At first glance, this may seem very sweet and romantic, but in fact, this story isn't actually a very happy one. And the way it ended wasn't anything like a romance movie. Well, first, maybe I should start with some background information. Since I was a child, I've been going to a modeling school. I've even made some decent progress there. A lot of people were sure I'd be walking the catwalk in the future. And well, I don't mind. I thought it seemed cool, profitable, and prestigious. Modeling. It sounded like something to be proud of. The girls from the modeling school were insanely jealous of me, and didn't hide it. We pretty much openly disliked each other. One day, we all had to participate in a beauty contest, and the outcome shocked me. I finished last, and the meanest of the other students, Susie, won. I couldn't wrap my head around it. It dealt a serious blow to my self-esteem. Why her exactly? And why exactly was I in the last place? Was it that bad and hopeless? I ended up falling into a deep depression. I stopped caring about anything. I can't even express how I felt. It was like someone wiped their feet on me and then also stepped all over me. No wonder they say, the higher you are, the harder you fall. For about a month, I was in a kind of void. Not caring about sleep or food. It was as if I wasn't myself at all. That is, not a clever and a beautiful woman, but some depressed idiot. Then my parents, with the help of a psychologist, managed to persuade me to first return to a regular school and then to the modeling school. If only you knew what it took for me to show up in front of Susie and the other girls. They looked at me smugly, whispered among themselves, and giggled cruelly. Ever so often, they would remind me that I was a loser. It was incredibly painful and humiliating, but I promised my parents not to give up. But I didn't end up fighting for long. A couple of weeks after my return to modeling school, there was a disgusting incident. I went onto the catwalk to walk, and at some point, my heel wobbled and I couldn't keep my balance, and so I fell. The girls began to laugh loudly and compared me to a clumsy cow. And then they even started saying that I was very fat and no heels could support my weight. This incident brought me to a new level of depression. It's obvious that the girls did this to disqualify me from the competition that was supposed to take place 3 months later. The winner would receive an invitation to study at the best modeling school in Paris. So I was a loser again. I even lost my reason to go on living. This time, neither my parents nor the best psychologists could pull me out of my depression. I believed that I was worthless and that my place was definitely not on the catwalk. When you feel like the best all your life, realizing your worthlessness is insanely painful. But soon, everything changed dramatically and for the better. Honestly, it probably just couldn't get any worse, and that's why I started to move from minus to plus. Basically, I had a secret admirer. I understand that this sounds stupid, but at some point, I realized that I fell in love with him. It all started with a note I found in my algebra textbook. It said that I was very beautiful and sweet, and that he, that is, the anonymous person, was in love with me. Oh, how nice it is for us girls to receive something like this. In my opinion, my shoulders straightened up, and my gait changed in that moment. I think it added 200 points to my self-esteem and pride. But then I remembered that I was a cow that couldn't even stand in a pair of heels and, on top of that, took last place in a beauty contest. I realized that the note was probably just someone's cruel idea of a joke, and I shouldn't have been so deluded. But a couple of weeks later, I found a heart-shaped card in my mailbox. Inside, there was a note that said he still loved me, and if I don't have a boyfriend and I was ready for a relationship, I could write to him on Instagram. He included his handle, so I decided to look him up right away, even if it wouldn't be in person. But unfortunately, Instagram gave me almost no information. There were a bunch of pictures, some statuses, jokes, and that was it. Not a single photo, and instead of a name, there was just a nickname. Sad Clown. Well, I also needed a clown. Once again, I doubted how serious any of this was, but I still subscribed to his account. And literally, a minute later, the owner messaged me saying, "Hi, Olivia. I'm glad you followed me." We started talking, and I confess, the anonymous person turned out to be very nice and polite. But he still didn't say who he was. No name, no photo, nothing. He did promise that he would tell me who he was soon, but for now, he offered to just talk and get to know each other better. I never had anything like this before, and I'd never believed in virtual love, but I realized pretty soon that I was head over heels in love with somebody I didn't know anything about. Isn't that funny? Very. But I was completely at the mercy of my feelings and wasn't thinking that all of it was just made up. And I often thought, who was he? Maybe it was Max from my year. He had recently picked up my fallen textbook. That could be a sign that he liked me, right? Or maybe it was Jack in 11th grade. A couple of weeks before, he started saying hi to me. Oh, I had so many of these kinds of thoughts, and there's no way you can know for sure. And there's a suspense. Every now and then, an unknown person put flowers on my doorstep, had chocolates and stuffed animals delivered, and I went crazy from the tension. He also showered me with endless compliments. And when I told him about my fiasco at the modeling school, he began to persuade me to return there because he had no doubt that I was the best and deserved all the victories and awards. And in the end, 2 weeks before the competition that I refused to participate in, my secret admirer managed to persuade me to return, to go back to the modeling school one more time and prove to everyone that I was the best. But of course, he knew how to hook me and promised that we would meet immediately after the competition. This was already a matter of principle. So I wanted to know who it was and who was causing my sleepless nights. The person who had won my heart. That I couldn't agree more. The competition would have to happen, I decided. Yes, after returning to modeling school, I had a hard time again because Susie and her team came after me just as much as ever. They kept calling me names and coming up with different plans for me, but I didn't care about them anymore. Let them say whatever they wanted. All that mattered was that I had him and that he believed in me. I was as inspired by my love and didn't notice anything else going on around me. And yes, it made me give my best walk on the catwalk. 100%. The day of the competition came. I was very nervous. But that morning, my secret admirer sent me a bouquet of flowers and a postcard. He told me not to doubt my abilities, not to forget that I am the best. And he told me that he loved me. It was so sweet. And for his sake, and for the sake of meeting him, I was ready to blow up on the catwalk on my way out. Everything went even better than I expected. This time, I had no equal, and I won an absolute victory. Now, Susie and her friends were the losers, and I could look them straight in the eyes. But I wasn't bothering with them because I had a meeting with my secret admirer and Paris to look forward to. It was strange that, before, I didn't think that moving to Paris could get between us, although, how can you separate those who have never seen each other? After the competition, I rushed to share my joy with him and ask when our meeting would take place, but my message wasn't read. Maybe he had some business? Still, stuff comes up, life happens, and it was worth waiting a little bit. Meanwhile, my parents congratulated me on my win and invited me to a restaurant to celebrate. We had dinner in one of the best places in the city. My mother told me how proud she was of me, and my father gave me a beautiful necklace. But none of us brought me any joy at all. After all, my beloved secret admirer still hadn't read any of my messages, and I was starting to get worried. Ever so often, my parents would ask me why I was so sad, but I didn't want to tell them. The next day, I started to think that this whole thing was someone's trick and that I was stupidly deceived. My admirer deleted his account on Insta, and there was no news from him. Then I realized that I was starting to slide into the abyss again, and I didn't need this victory at all. I wanted love. And Paris? Why did I need it if I was used again? I told my parents that I wasn't going anywhere and that I was done with modeling school. It wasn't for me. I didn't want to have anything to do with this industry, and I wanted to be left alone. When I said this, My parents got furious. They shouted that it took me so long to achieve this, and it would be foolish now to give up the success that I already had in my grasp. The argument that started up between us led to an interesting discovery. At some point, my mother said that my victory cost them and my father a lot, and they couldn't allow me to act like it didn't mean anything. And then I found out that my parents were the ones who pretended to be my secret admirer. They didn't know how to get me out of depression and back into modeling school. And they couldn't think of anything better than creating a fake secret admirer. Which means, all this time, my mom and dad were the ones giving me gifts and showering me with compliments, not some cool boy. I didn't even know what could be worse than that. You see, all this time I was sharing with them the most intimate thoughts. I confessed my love for them, and they, it turns out, just used me. It was terrible. I firmly stated that I wouldn't fly to Paris and asked them to never again try to lure me back into modeling school. I was done with it. I wanted to take a different path. At some point, my parents realized that their efforts were in vain and left me alone. But I don't know if I'll ever be able to love them again, or, honestly, if I'll ever really believe in love again. Would you, in my place, be able to forgive your parents? Write your answers in the comments and like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on a new story tomorrow.